Welcome to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show, a real estate investment program. Listen and learn how to use real estate to build wealth and passive income streams for you and your family. We bring you experts every day to discuss and answer your questions on everything from single-family homes all the way up to 600-plus unit apartment complexes. And now, the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome to the show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. I'm going to share with you a list. Yeah, I'm going to violate all of the rules of radio, and I'm going to share a list with you. And this particular list, it's going to be pretty fast. I'm going to just hit you with it. I'm not going to try and spread it out through the entire radio show. But this particular list is a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of who I am. And what this list is going to do for you is it's going to call into question some of your beliefs. Because I guarantee you got some pretty messed up beliefs. And on today's show, I'm going to get into that. I'm going to pretend like I'm a psychiatrist, psychologist. I'm not any of those things. And I'm going to try and break down for you some things that are going on in your brain, which are preventing you from having the life that you choose to have. Yeah, you heard me say it. There are things going on in your brain right now that are preventing you from having the life that you choose to have. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to get into your brain, and we're going to talk about some of these things. Because I guarantee you, when I read you this list, you're going to go, oh, well, that's kind of like me. Yeah, trust me, this is going to hurt, so buckle up. All right. So, the top 10 self-limiting beliefs, in my opinion. Number 1, I'm too old. Number 2, I'm not smart enough. Number 3, I'm not educated enough. Number 4, I'm afraid of trying and failing. Number 5, you have to make money, you have to have money to make money. Number 6, I've already tried everything. Number 7, it's selfish of me to want more. Number 8, I don't feel that I really deserve it. Number 9, I don't have the willpower. And finally, number 10, all of the good ones are already taken. Now, if any of those beliefs resonated with you, you got some stinking thinking going on in your brain. And trust me, the reason I know this is because I have stinking thinking going on in my brain too. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about false beliefs. We're going to talk about where they came from and why they're impacting you. And maybe we'll get into, if we have enough time, ways you can counteract these things. Because I guarantee you that you have false beliefs in your life that are preventing you from having the life that you choose to have. The beliefs I described a few moments ago, well, those are the types of beliefs that hold us back from doing things because we incorrectly believe that we can't or we shouldn't do some of the things that we would actually like to do. You know, those beliefs, as I said earlier, they exist in all aspects of our lives. They even impact the desire to change that direction. And limiting beliefs are really nothing more than false beliefs that we hold about who we are as people. Those beliefs restrict us, they inhibit us, and generally make us feel miserable. They exist unquestioned in our minds. We simply accept them as rules that we must live by. And everyone has them, and they usually reside in our brains for years, if not for our entire lifetime. So you're asking yourself, is this a belief or the truth? And if we accept limiting beliefs to be true, accurate, and factually correct, then we stop interacting openly and freely with certain aspects of our lives. This creates significant consequences for us, even without us realizing that it's going on. And people often confuse beliefs with truth, when in fact the two are, in many cases, completely different things. Am I making your head hurt yet? Because I'll tell you what, it's making my head hurt. But this is one of those things that you have to face. This is one of those things that you have to understand is going on in your life, especially if you don't like the direction your life is heading in. Now, on this show, we talk about retirement. We talk about it ad nauseum because it's very important. Too many of us put retirement on the back burner. We figure that's something we're going to get to eventually. But some of the things that we are doing to position ourselves for what we think is going to be retirement is based on our belief system. It's based on false beliefs that exist in our minds. And you have to understand, a belief is a personal acceptance that something exists or it is absolutely true. Beliefs don't require evidence of proof. And they often rely on trust, faith, and having confidence in something or somebody. Truths, on the other hand, well, they conform with reality. Based on facts and evidence, they can be verified as real and certain, and they cannot be argued with. And just because we believe something doesn't necessarily make it true. When we come back from the break, I'm going to get back into this argument about false beliefs and how they may be keeping you from the life that you choose to have. We'll be back right after this.
We're back with the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. We're here to answer your questions and help you become financially free.
Welcome back to the show. So on today's show, we're talking about a concept known as false beliefs. And false beliefs are something that exist in us. And I'm going to get into how all of this occurs, how false beliefs have seeped into your brain, just like the way they have seeped into my brain. You know, we're in this together. And the reason I'm discussing all of these things is that I believe that you have false beliefs keeping you from accomplishing the things that you truly want to accomplish in life. Now, just to recap, a belief is a personal acceptance that something exists or is true. And beliefs don't require evidence or proof, and they often rely on trust, faith, and having confidence in something or somebody. Truths, on the other hand, well, they conform with reality. Based on facts and evidence, they can be verified as real and certain, and they can't be argued with. And just because we believe something, well, that doesn't necessarily make it true. But let me give you an example of a belief that we hold that is purposeful and it protects us from harm and ultimately corresponds with the truth. You know, if you touch a pan that comes out of a oven that was just cooking at 425 degrees, chances are you're going to get burned. And we know that. I mean, that is a belief that we have that actually corresponds with truth. It is absolutely in accordance with truth. But that is not the case with limiting beliefs or false beliefs. So let me get into the dirty little secret about the truths regarding those limiting beliefs. They are constructed from our past experiences. They often are shaped and formed in our minds at a very, very early age. And as we continue to grow, they're either reinforced or new ones are introduced. They're usually naive, they're misinformed, they're shrouded with inaccuracy, and they're usually just simply wrong. In short, limiting beliefs really aren't truths. They are not the factual entity that we perceive them to be. Despite this, we treat them as too important or valuable to be interfered with. In other words, to us, these things are sacred. We accept them without question, and we don't mess with them. But sadly enough, they have a devastating effect on the way we live our lives. They hold us back. They cause us to make inaccurate judgments, and they curtail our enjoyment of life. And even worse, it's an epidemic. It really is. You know, we all have limiting beliefs. You've got them, I've got them. And we hold them about ourselves. We hold them about other people. We hold them about our relationships and the world in general. Trust me, with everything going on in the world, you've got some false beliefs about what's going on out there. And what you're going to have to do is figure out which ones are false. You know, false beliefs guide us. You know, we follow their rules and we don't question their validity. We hold these beliefs about what we are able to accomplish, about the rights and permissions we have, about what we are allowed to do. So if you weren't in the first part of the show and you didn't hear my list of what I consider to be limiting beliefs, let me just throw a few more at you. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve her love and attention. I'm not a nice person. I'm not attractive. I'm not intelligent. I'm not funny enough. I will fail. I can't make a fuss. I need to be quiet. I will embarrass myself if I go ahead and fill in the blank. Yeah, those are all statements that you make about yourself that may not be true. They absolutely may not be true. So let's talk about how these limiting beliefs are actually formed in our lives. I mean, how did these things come into existence? Well, limiting beliefs are commonly formed in our childhood and during our adolescence. They're a product of our experiences. And a significant experience at any point in our life can give rise to a new limiting belief. It's just the way it is. So it's kind of like the tip of an iceberg above the water level. Limiting beliefs are actually based on a complex body of evidence that sits beyond our frame of immediate consciousness. In other words, we may not be able to explain why we accept as true some of the limiting beliefs that we hold. And often, the evidence base is thin and it's inaccurate. Kind of like, you know, you ever watched a bad police drama on TV? And trust me, there's a lot of them out there. They're kind of like that. The brain is a very amazing thing. It does a lot for us that we don't fully understand. And based on some of the reading I've done, I have found out that when we encounter an experience, our brain draws conclusions from the encounter or the action. And every experience leaves an impression which is processed and stored in our brains. You know, there's a part of our brain called the Reticular Activating System, or the RAS. And when I read about this, I was like, oh, that's cool. Didn't know about that. Maybe I should have paid more attention in school. Or maybe I did learn it in school, but, you know, it was one of those things that just kind of flushed through my brain as I was trying to cram for exams. Anyhow, this thing called the Reticular Activating System, apparently what it does is it organizes all of this information for us so that it can be consulted again when we need it. You know, it's kind of like just having our own personal reference library. So let me give you an example of an experience. I fell over when I didn't tie my shoelaces. That was a physical experience. The impression it left on me was that I must tie my shoelaces to stop myself from falling over. I mean, that's kind of I don't necessarily come up with the best examples, but that's the best example I've got for you that, be honest with you, keeps it clean too. That RES, it does a remarkable job at recalling and filtering information for us. Have you ever thought about buying a car, and not just any car, but maybe you want a red car, and then all of a sudden, everywhere you go, all you see are red cars? Have you ever noticed that? They come out of nowhere. It's like, the heavens opened and red cars appeared. I don't know. Well, the reason that happens, it's because that RES hums along quietly in your background, and it's providing you the information that you need on demand. And that's part of the reason you see those things. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Now, let's get back to your map to financial freedom.
Welcome back to the show. On today's show, we're exploring the concept of false beliefs, and false beliefs exist in your life. They do. I know this for a fact. And the reason I know this for a fact is because false beliefs exist in my life. And one of the things that I have had to do is I have had to question my belief system. And in doing so, I was able to find those beliefs that actually weren't true. And as a result of that, I was able to overcome those beliefs because I called them into question. Now, when we went to the break, we were talking about this thing called a reticular activating system. It is a component of our brain, and trust me, I did not go to college for the hard sciences. I did not. I went for both times I went for a business degree, so I'm a little bit focused in a different place. But the problem that I see with this reticular activating system, or RES, is that the course taken by it is determined by our individual focus and our beliefs. And the RES is incredibly compliant. If we think that we're a failure, the RES will kick into action and will provide you with all the evidence you need to conclusively prove to yourself that belief. One glorious little bit after another. It is always happy to help you out. It's always there to lend you a hand. Super convenient, right? Well, let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about the immature brain. That's the brain that you and I had during childhood and adolescence. And, our wives would probably say throughout our adulthood too. That particular brain, it wasn't perfect. And some of the information that was stored by the RES is based on inaccurate conclusions that we drew from our childhood experiences and even from emotional trauma that occurred later in our life. Even though the RES is actually kind of a good thing, it's really there, I think, to help. It also has distinct downside effects to it. Even though it's just doing its job, it's regurgitating information for you. But just like the internet, some of the information it contains is absolutely junk information. It's that garbage in, garbage out concept. That RES will always do its best to make the evidence fit the belief. Even if it distorts the evidence, even if it deletes information, even if it's generalizing, like maybe, a crooked lawyer in a criminal trial. There's a gentleman out there by the name of Tobias von Schneider, and when I was doing my research for today's episode, I came across a statement that he made, and I thought it was pretty wise. So what I want to do now is share that statement with you. He says, the RES seeks information that validates your beliefs. It filters the world through the parameters you gave it, and your beliefs shape those parameters. If you think you are bad, at giving speeches, you probably will be. If you believe you work efficiently, you most likely will do so. The RES helps you see what you want to see, and in doing so, influences your actions. So you just need to know that thing is out there. And it's really trying to help you out. It really is. But it can't discern truth and non-truth. And there's a common source of limiting beliefs. Have you ever noticed the impact in your life that originated from your childhood beliefs? This can sometimes be, well, pretty funny, especially when you notice that some of the rules that you follow, you simply follow them because they were implanted by your parents early on in your childhood. Let me give you an example of one of mine. I cannot leave any food on my plate because I was taught from a very early age that this is not allowed under any circumstances. I had to eat everything on my plate. Now, ironically, one of the things that my parents told me, which was the justification for me doing this, was that there were a bunch of children across the world that were starving at that time. And I didn't understand, nor did I comprehend the fact that the food on my plate would never survive the logistical challenges necessary to feed even one of them. I mean, the food would spoil, it would rot, it would never get there. Not in the form that it was at on my plate. But I eat everything on my plate today. And I think that's why. You know, as children, we take at face value the things that our parents tell us, and we believe them without question. After all, why would our parents lie to us? Well, the same thing applies to people in positions of authority. Unfortunately, not everyone is in full possession of the truth or even a balanced view of what the truth is. I mean, you just look at what's going on with our government right now. Yeah, everybody's got their own version of the truth out there. And as children, we are often fed inaccurate information, which is then filtered by our immature brain and stored in our RES, leaving a lasting impact. And for this reason, most people can trace their fear of speaking in public back to maybe a traumatic event that occurred in childhood, like, you know, standing up in front of the class and getting tongue-tied and not knowing what to say. Yeah, you've been there. I was there once too. At the end of the day, we are all very sophisticated creatures, and as such, it's actually surprising how quickly we make decisions, often based on having very little factual information, because we have a tendency to rely heavily on our feelings. Have you ever been in a situation where no matter how hard you try, the other person does not want to hear the truth or accept the facts? Well, there's another author that I came by. His name is David Straker, and he made the following observation, which I think is pretty interesting, and I'm going to share it with you. David said, people make many decisions, for example, based on poor estimation of probabilities. We take a little data and generalize it to everything. We go on hunches that are based more on subconscious hopes and fears than they are on reality. The word because can be surprisingly hazardous. When we use it, it seems like we are using good reason, but that may not be the case. We like to understand cause and effect and often do not challenge reasoning that uses the mechanisms of rational argument. Yeah, I think you did a good job there. You know, fear is just a common cause of our limiting beliefs. Social fear, the thought of being laughed at or judged or criticized, is a powerful and a very unhelpful motivator. Too often, we simply don't take a risk because we are certain that there's going to be consequences to taking that risk. And I'll tell you what, I think we've got that wrong. Failure is also a culprit in the creation of our limiting beliefs. As David Straker goes on to say, he says, when we do something and it does not work, we often explain away our failure by forming and using beliefs which justify our actions and leave us blameless. But in doing so, we do not learn and may increasingly paint ourselves into a corner, limiting what we will think and do in our future. So now that you get it, you probably have limiting beliefs. But how do you identify them? When we come back from the break, I'm going to get into that. And we'll be back right after this.
Here's Lifestyles Unlimited founder and CEO, self-made multimillionaire, and national radio host, Del Walmsley, on the effective way to run a business.
There are people that run their businesses on a shoestring. If you own an apartment complex and you have no cash, that's not a very effective way to run a business. My businesses, each and every one of them, have cash savings. In other words, we can make no money or make very little money. We'd still survive. For those of you that haven't thought it through that far and you don't have any cash savings, let's get you in here and get you educated on how to save what you already own. The mom and pop businesses are going to take a major hit. If you've been running your business that way, you need to get into Lifestyles right now and learn how to operate your business the right way.
Lifestyles Unlimited has been helping people succeed since 1990. Join us for our free online real estate workshop and learn the 7 principles we teach to run our businesses and provide for our families. Register at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Warning. Listening to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show will change your life. We will teach you how to create wealth and passive income so you can be financially free. And now, back to your host.
Welcome back to the show. So on today's show, we've been talking about how a false belief can stop you dead in your tracks, just as if it was actually true. And I gave you some information as to how all of this occurs in our minds, because that's where it resides. It resides in our minds. And I'm going to be very clear with you right now, because you have to combat these false beliefs, also known as limiting beliefs. You have to start questioning your belief system to find the false ones. And the reason you need to do this is you have to make sure that you don't have false beliefs holding you back from having the life that you hope to have. Yeah, true. So how do you identify these things? Well, I think the easiest way is just to kind of share with you how you speak. You know, we often start our sentences in a manner that is guided by our limiting or false beliefs. In other words, you might start a sentence with the phrase, I can't. Let me expand on that. For example, I can't stand up in public and speak eloquently. Maybe you can, but you have a false belief that's limiting your ability. Let me give you another example. You start a sentence with the words, I shouldn't, or I must. You know, I had, back in my military days, I had a good friend who was a mentor to me. He was kind of a peer and a mentor at the same time. And he said, every time I would start a sentence with, I should, he said, you know what, Al? You are shoulding all over yourself. And what he was trying to tell me was, what I was about ready to say was going to probably not be in line with what he saw in me as a person. Maybe you start your sentences, I am not. As an example, I am not as capable as the other people in the office. Well, maybe you are. But for whatever reason, maybe that last butt chewing your boss gave you, maybe that sealed the deal for you. These are just, some things that I've observed through my lifetime that I think are reflective of those false beliefs. Another example of classic limiting beliefs are the things that we believe to be true of other people and how the world works. In these contexts, we usually believe that the other person or people are better than us and that there are norms that exist in life by which we must abide. I think the most common one is the concept that the Jones family are perfect people. They don't argue, they're tidy, and their children are perfectly behaved. We've got a cliche out there that says we're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And you know what? The Joneses may be giving you that impression, but it may not be true. Here's another one. The bank will never lend someone like me money to buy a house. Yeah, we hear that a lot at Lifestyles Unlimited. There are people that join our organization, become members, and that is a common false belief that they bring with them to the membership. And to be honest with you, it's really not true. Now, if you've got really bad credit, maybe that'll have an impact on your ability to do the things you need to do. But you can fix your credit. And you can find lenders out there that are willing to work with you based on the fact that you've adopted a completely and solid education on how to invest in property. They understand that you have a business model that works. You know, that's one of those things that we do for our members. We help them to confront those false beliefs. And then, of course, there's all of that adaptive behavior out there. You know, as we mature and the limiting beliefs become established and embedded in our minds, we grow up from childhood and we get into adulthood, but along the way, we adapted our behavior to cope with the limiting beliefs that we hold. And these beliefs often continue into our adult lives. Let me give one to you that I think is relevant. I am not loved. So to compensate for those individuals, they go out of their way to please other people because they have a desire to be liked at all costs. Here's another one. I'm lazy, no good, useless compared to others. So to compensate for that, people that believe that are often perfectionists who need to be right all of the time and they need to be in control. And maybe that's what's going on in your boss's head. I don't know. People will think, I am weak for showing my emotions and getting upset. I think those people are compensating because they feel they have to be tough and withhold their feelings. I'll tell you what, I saw a lot of people like that in the military. Because I'll tell you what, some of the things that we do in the military, they cause you to be afraid. They do. So what we have found at Lifestyles Unlimited is that there are 3 false beliefs out there that are impacting your ability or your desire to learn how to invest in real estate. Because you believe these false beliefs and you have heard these false beliefs, they've been articulated to you over time, they've been embedded into your brain, you think them to be true. And they're really not. The first one is that real estate investment is very risky. And the concept is you can't guarantee what people are going to do once they're in your property. And I'll tell you what, you can't. But if you're doing the right things, you're putting the right people in your property who will take care of your property, who will treat it like it's their own. There's the concept that the place could burn down. And then what? Well, we take that risk out of it because we're effectively leveraging insurance products that will build that property back to brand new condition. And because we have the right insurance products on our investment properties, we have a little rider called loss of rent insurance, which basically says that the insurance company will make that monthly payment while that time occurs when that property is offline, just as if the resident were living there. Another thing we do is we follow a concept called best product at the best price for the best people, which takes a lot of the risks out of property ownership. See, we repair a property to new or like new condition. If something is going to go bad in the next 5 years, regardless of what it is, we repair it or we replace it. Because we don't want to have problems with those properties, and we want to give our residents a great experience. You know, another false belief out there is there's just no time to do real estate. You know, people have this misconception that real estate takes a ton of time, and that's not true. When you learn how to effectively leverage other people's time, money, and knowledge, you put yourself into a position where you are only orchestrating the deal. And then when you follow the concept that we work on our businesses, we don't work in our businesses, you don't need to spend your time doing the things that other people can provide for you in a much more efficient manner than you can do yourself. And then when you learn how to cultivate a team of people that are always on the prowl for you looking for deals, you never have a problem finding deals. It's just the way it is. Another false belief out there is that real estate takes a ton of money, that you have to be rich to get started, and that's just not true. None of that is true, but you have that false belief that that is real in your mind. When you come to one of our free workshops where we talk about becoming a member in Lifestyles Unlimited, We show you how we buy properties. We show you how we keep our cash outlay as low as possible. And in doing so, we're able to leverage our properties better and get better returns. And as a result of that, your money goes much farther. We take all the risks out. We take all the time constraint out. We take all the money constraints out. Well, you can't completely take 100% out, but we get pretty close. And if you want to check out how to do it, go to freeworkshoplivestream.com. That's freeworkshoplivestream.com.
The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.